Would you believe that Jeff Bezos came up with a business plan for Amazon in 1994 while on a cross-country road trip from New York City to Seattle? What started out as an online bookstore has now made this man the richest person in the entire world. Jeff graduated from Princeton University in 1986 with degrees in electrical engineering and computer science. Then, this American entrepreneur got a job on Wall Street, where he worked his way up the ranks until he was taking home a very comfortable salary. But that wasn't enough to keep Jeff satisfied, and he decided to launch his own bookshop. At first, his parents thought he was mad. Who would be buying books from an internet-based bookstore when they could simply walk down the road to an actual bookstore? But Jeff knew that his business would change the world. Before we take you on a wild ride of this CEO's net worth and spending habits, make sure to like this video, subscribe to The Richest, and join our notification squad. Now, this is how Amazon's Jeff Bezos spends his billions. It seems like even though his parents didn't initially believe in his idea, they were still prepared to support their son and help him to achieve his dreams. And their early investment of $250,000 meant that Jeff was able to start his business off right, and that investment definitely seems to have paid off. With a company that has had its valuation surpass $1 trillion, it's estimated that his parents' shares are now worth $30 billion if they kept them. Although Jeff believed in his dream, he warned investors that there was a 70% chance that Amazon would fail, but they weren't put off, and Jeff grew his business for nearly 3 years before finally going public at $18 per share. Throughout these early years, Amazon was nothing more than an online bookshop, but Jeff had always intended on broadening the shop's products and maintained that the internet would eventually overtake traditional methods of shopping. And he was right. Amazon's currently the world's largest online sales company. Nowadays, Jeff's net worth is more than $142 billion. In 1998, Amazon really took off. Jeff decided to start selling CDs and DVDs online before opening up the market even more so to consumer goods. However, it wasn't all upwards movement from that point on. In the year 2000, the company's share price dropped significantly, and many speculated that Amazon would declare bankruptcy. But Jeff pushed through, and in 2003, Amazon earned its first full-year profit since beginning its operations, $35 million. In 2007, he launched the Amazon Kindle, and profits grew even larger. And a couple of years later, Amazon was finally being recognized as one of the largest online shopping retailers in the world. Jeff Bezos had officially made it as a tech genius. But building up Amazon isn't the only way that Jeff has made his money over the years. He's actually a very good investor. In the year 2000, Jeff founded Blue Origin, a spaceflight services and aerospace manufacturer company. Jeff had always had an interest in outer space and decided to use some of his early profits to help get humans further beyond planet Earth. It seems this company was more of an interest than a moneymaker for Jeff, but as always, he had his business hat on throughout its early years. In 2015, he actually successfully launched a rocket into space and even managed to land it back in Texas at Blue Origin's launch site. Obviously, this attracted widespread attention, which Jeff capitalized on. By July 2018, it was revealed that Jeff was serious about making commercial spaceflight a thing, and he priced the venture at between $200,000 and $300,000 per person for the first few flights. We'd put money on Jeff being the first to make commercial spaceflight possible, and we reckon this could easily bring in billions more dollars for him in just a few years. Jeff also invested in Google back in 1998. He put $250,000 into the startup, just like his parents had done for him when he was younger. When Google went public, that $250,000 investment resulted in 3.3 million shares of Google stocks, which is now worth more than $3 billion. Aside from the tech world, he's also invested a lot of money into companies like Unity Biotechnology, a research firm that's hoping to slow or stop the process of aging. Jeff's ability to lift struggling companies was also seen when he decided to buy the Washington Post paper for $250,000. Just a few years later, the paper actually became profitable for the first time in forever. It seems like Jeff had some sort of magic touch. Amazon, through Jeff's guidance, has also made its own acquisitions, including a $13.7 billion deal for Whole Foods Market, as well as other companies such as the online shoe retailer Zappos and the video streaming site Twitch. So now that we know a bit more about how Jeff Bezos earns his money, we can start looking into where he's spending it. As the richest man on the planet, he could quite literally buy anything he wants, because when you crunch the numbers, Jeff spending $2 billion is equivalent to the average American spending $1,187. And if Jeff decided to purchase a yacht worth a huge $400 million, it would feel like he was only actually spending $237. College tuition for Princeton University might cost almost $300,000, but it would only actually feel like 17 cents to Jeff. When you start to put it into perspective, you begin to understand exactly how much money this billionaire is in control of. But despite this, he's actually been called tight with his money before. When it comes to cars, Jeff still drove to work each day in a Honda Accord for years after he became a multi-millionaire. He's also been called frugal when it comes to spending money on employee perks at Amazon. Unlike many big tech companies, you won't find a free lunch or free massage at the Amazon HQ. Instead, he prefers to spend his money on the likes of property and space exploration. Jeff and his family own multiple oversized estates across the United States, and they all come in at a high price. In the same neighborhood as Bill Gates in Washington, Bezos owns 2 homes, spanning 5.3 acres in total. According to the Wall Street Journal, Jeff spent a cool $10 million for the property in 1998, back when Amazon wasn't quite as big as it is today. The first home is a 20,600 square foot, 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house with plenty of room for him to relax in. The second is also huge, with 8,300 square feet of space, 5 bedrooms, and 4 bathrooms. And the impressive features don't just stop there. It seems that Jeff wasn't 100% happy with this purchase because the estate underwent a $28 million renovation in 2010. And the outside is just as beautiful as the inside. Right on the shores of Lake Washington, the estate boasts a whopping 310 feet of shoreline, and it even has a boathouse. It's nothing short of luxurious. His second estate in Beverly Hills, California is a Spanish-style mansion that Jeff bought in 2007 for $24.45 million. It has 7 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, and plenty of other features, including a greenhouse, a tennis court, a huge swimming pool, 4 fountains, and a 6-car garage. House number 3 is right next door and has a modest 4 bedrooms. It also came with an equally modest price tag of $12.9 million. But that wasn't enough to keep Jeff happy. He wanted to buy a place down south in the US in honor of all the time he used to spend there during the summer with his grandparents. Estate number 4 is a 30,000-acre U-shaped ranch in Van Horn, Texas. Before Jeff bought it, the previous owner reportedly spent millions renovating it. House number 5, also in Texas, isn't really a house, but it is the HQ for Blue Origin. And properties 6 and 7 are also both worth writing home about. House number 6 was actually a former textile museum, and it's located in Washington, D.C.'s Kalorama neighborhood. Jeff paid $23 million back in 2016 for the property. It's so historically important that it has a spot on the National Register of Historic Places. Number 7, bringing up the rear, is a collection of condos that Jeff's parents bought back in 1999. Based in the Century Building at 25 Central Park West in New York City's Upper West Side, these cost them almost $8 million in total. It's obvious that Jeff likes to have somewhere that he can call home no matter where in the country he's staying. You might have noticed that the majority of Jeff's properties are pretty spread out across America, and you can bet that Jeff flies privately when traveling between them. Jeff is the owner of a Gulfstream private jet, which he bought in 2015 for $65 million. This plane is one of the fanciest and most expensive in the world, and it can quickly grow in price if there's customizations added to it. But again, that kind of money is little more than pocket change for Jeff. Food is another area where Jeff likes to treat himself, but it hasn't always been that way. Back before Amazon launched, he'd eat an entire can of Pillsbury biscuits for breakfast each morning with added butter. His wife finally stopped him one day and asked him to read the ingredients. Over the next few years, he started to read nutritional labels and improve his diet. Nowadays, he's got the money to eat whatever he fancies, and he's been pictured eating some unusual dishes in the past. On one occasion, he picked octopus for breakfast. On another, he was pictured snacking on iguana. However, that doesn't mean he won't eat junk food like the rest of us. When he has meetings at work, he employs a two-pizza rule, which means he never organizes a meeting where two pizzas couldn't feed the entire group. This is mostly to improve meeting productivity, but we imagine that Jeff will actually treat them to two pizzas every once in a while. Jeff's penchant for weirdness doesn't end at the things he puts in his mouth. He also likes to invest in things like the Long Now Foundation, a non-profit cultural institute that is building a 10,000-year clock inside a West Texas mountain. The clock has been in the works for more than 3 decades and is designed to tick once a year for approximately 10,000 years. The century hand will advance once every 100 years, and the cuckoo comes out on the millennium. It's not your average investment, but Jeff says it's designed to be a symbol and an icon for long-term thinking. The clock is 500 feet tall and is powered by the Earth's thermal cycles, and Jeff has invested $42 million into the project. It's also thanks to Jeff's money that 2 rockets from the Apollo 11 mission were retrieved from 3 miles below the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. Back in 2013, he had quietly started investing in a mission to find the 2 rockets, which were thought to be lost at sea. Remarkably, he found them both and then paid for them to be sent off to be analyzed by experts. Since then, he's also sent out more expeditions and has pulled up engine parts from Apollo 12 and Apollo 16. But Jeff doesn't just spend his money on diverse projects. He's also used his business head to invest in huge companies around the world, like Uber and Airbnb. He put $112 million in Airbnb and $35 million in Uber, suggesting that he could almost see into the future that both companies would take off. He does his investments through his own company, Bezos Expeditions, which manages his venture capital investments. Through this, he's put money into everything from Twitter to Stack Overflow to plenty of healthcare companies. But when it comes to charity, Jeff isn't quite as generous as his filthy rich counterparts. Until recently, he hadn't engaged in much philanthropy, and he's the only American among the world's 5 richest people to not join the Giving Pledge, which billionaires sign to commit the majority of their fortune to charity. However, it seemed that he wanted to go public with the donations he made in September 2018, when he spoke about the Bezos Day One Fund. This is a $2 billion fund created to support homeless families and education programs in struggling communities. Previous to this, he's also donated money to Mary's Place in Seattle, which provides shelter and employment training to people who are homeless. Back in 2016, Jeff and Amazon partnered with a charity to turn an old hotel into a shelter for more than 200 family members. But eventually, Jeff called for the building to be demolished to make room for 2 new Amazon office towers. He then donated $1 million to the nonprofit, possibly to make up for demolishing their shelter. He also made a far more significant donation of $33 million to the nonprofit TheDream.us, which provides support to children who came to the United States as undocumented immigrants. Jeff claims he did this in honor of his father, who was born in Spain and moved to the US from Cuba at just 15 years old. So it seems that while Jeff has more money than anyone in the world, he's not actually spending a lot of it. Sure, he likes to invest in property and he seems to like fancy meals too, but he's certainly not spending his cash like many of the other rich people that we hear about on the news. We can't help but wonder if he's secretly stashing all of his money away for a space mission that he hasn't yet revealed. That's all for how Amazon's Jeff Bezos spends his billions. Would you spend your money the same way as Jeff if you were the richest person in the world? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time.